What's going on, guys? It's Mirwin. Today we're going to dissect my song, Credits Roll. So if you guys haven't been watching the YouTube channel, we have our series Dissect, inspired by the podcast on Spotify, where I talk about the production, the lyrics, the backstory behind all the music I make. Today we're going to be doing my song Credits Roll off of my new album, Strangers in the Dark. If you guys haven't listened to this song or my album, Strangers in the Dark, definitely encourage you guys to do that. Super proud of this album. I think you guys will love it. We got a link in the description. Definitely encourage you guys to check that out. Don't have to listen to it before watching the rest of the video. We're going to get straight into it today. Every episode of Dissect, we have 6 questions we ask about every song. So we're just going to get started. The first question we're going to ask is, what's the heart behind the song? So for this song, Credits Roll, this was a song that I've kind of talked about the track listing aspect of this album a little bit in some other videos, I believe. But this was one of the songs that, especially with the title, I almost immediately knew was going to be the last song on this album. Again, also, this is one of the couple songs on this album where I incorporate kind of the spoken word poem, spoken word thing. Everybody's got a story. Do you see it? Believe it. That little section or, that, verse or whatever you want to call it ends with the line, "Will it be proud of yours when the credits roll?" So I kind of wanted to tie that into the album as a whole. Maybe, I always like full circle endings, especially, books, movies, things like that. So kind of trying to do a little bit of that thing with this song, where ending with it, especially again, the title being the last song of the album. I think it just, fits perfectly. As far as what the heart behind this song is, so this song is kind of a twofold kind of message or theme. So if you listen to this song, it's got a beat change in it, which again, if you listen to my music, it's something I love doing, just because I love, being able to use different samples and, I feel like it keeps people engaged, all that stuff. So the first half, I think is kind of a little bit in a similar vein as Better Things, as far as it's talking a lot about me working towards my goal of a career in music, moving to better things, looking towards the future, things are getting better, trying to work towards that idea, trying to really, follow, my dreams, locking them up, like what I feel like my purpose is. So that is what a lot of what the first verse is about. And then it's also a lot about that for other people as well. Kind of the first half of this verse really talks about that for myself. And then in the middle of it, it kind of switches, where I start talking more about, I wrote this album for you. I hope you find your purpose in life, all kind of that stuff. We're all going through something. You just got to keep going. So this verse kind of halfway through this verse, it kind of flips from talking about myself and my aspirations to me talking now to the listener and kind of talking about, I wrote this for you. All these things are true, all that. So that's kind of the message in the first verse. And then in the second verse, it's kind of a closing, I forget what the word is for when you're writing a paper. It's almost like a thesis statement, like a closing thesis statement for this whole album. So, like I've talked about in past videos, kind of the whole message of this album is that, everybody has a story. Do you see it? Do you believe it? Kind of that whole thing, kind of hoping that people will listen to it and, kind of have more empathy for people, make, the choices to grow, all those things. So this last section in this song where the beat changes, the second verse, is really kind of all about that theme of the album, and just kind of, again, just kind of doing a little thesis statement. So, we'll talk about the lyrics a little bit for that section specifically. But that's kind of the, again, closing out the album, solidly, and reinforcing the message that I have for the whole album. That's kind of what the message is for the end of it. So that's kind of the message of the whole song. Kind of a lot of different things going on there, but overall just kind of reinforcing the album's theme, and then talking about kind of my aspirations for myself, and then just encouragement for the listener. Moving on to the next question here is going to be, what's your favorite part lyrically? So this song, as I mentioned, I think before, or maybe I've just alluded to it, this is probably one of my top 3 favorite songs on this album, especially because I really love the sample for the first verse, and I really love this beat. I love my verses. It was a really fun beat to rap on. So I think my favorite parts lyrically in the first verse, I think there really is there's not like a lot of like metaphors or super bar heavy as far as like, oh wow, that was like, mind-blowing like lyricism. But I think it was really fun just to rap on, and like, I get to like kind of talk about, let my heart out a little bit more, also like encourage people, and do like some cool stuff with like the flows and things. So there really aren't a whole lot of lyrics that like I love as far as from like a bar point of view of there being like any crazy wordplay or things like that. But this is just a beat that was really fun to rap on, and I love the verse, how it turned out. Like I say, I think it does a really good job of talking. I'm able to talk about myself, and while also talk to the listener, and reinforce the theme of the album and things like that. Really put where I'm at in life into the song, and also talk to hopefully where other people where they're at in their life. So I think that was really cool. I think as far as the second verse, something I really like about the beat there is really cool. Got like kind of a DJ Screw DJ Screw inspired beat there, where it's like slowed down a little bit. But I think the thing I really like lyrically about the second verse again is this beat kind of ironically was a little bit more difficult to write to, just because again it's a little slower, so maybe took a little bit more of a methodical approach on it, trying to make sure when I'm liking what I'm saying there, as opposed to just I wrote it, it's good. But I think the thing I enjoy about the second verse is it's got a little bit of a different structure for me. So it kind of starts out, I got like a little like 8-bar verse, and then we got a little like almost hook section where the sample plays. And the sample I'll talk about in the Deconstructed for this, where I show how I made the beat for this song. Definitely encourage you guys to watch that video. But the thing I like about the sample for this one that drew me to it initially, other than sonically, was at this time I knew what the title of the album was going to be, and the title of the song was called Perfect Strangers, which I thought was cool that it could like tie in potentially to the album and the album theme and title. So I have the sample play, and I kind of connected to that idea of we're all strangers in the dark. So we have the sample play, and then I got like another 8-bar verse, and then I got the choir come in for like another outro hook thing. So it's got a really different, as opposed to just like one 16, 32 bar, verse or whatever. It's got a little bit of a different structure, which I enjoy. Again, keeps it fresh. I think, there's a lot of different elements coming in and out. You got me rapping with the drums, and, the hook comes in where, you can hear the vocals. And, I rap again, but then the guitar solo's there, and then you got the guitar solo with the choir. So, a lot of different stuff going on. I think my favorite part lyrically on this one, just kind of overarchingly, is the flow. I think, in the first verse, there's a lot of stuff where I was able to, where it just all flows really well, with, the different rhyme schemes to go into. This is a verse that, I think, if I remember correctly, not a lot of songs I record just one take all the way through. I think this was one that I did the first take all the way through. And then, I went in and did the sections, how I wanted, so I could get each section perfect. But I think just the flow overall, and like I said, just being able to share my heart, and also, tie it in, where I'm at in my life, tie that in with the message of the album, I think was really cool. So not really too many like specific lines that I'm like, you guys got to hear this. But I think just overarchingly, I think it, it really did well for what I wanted the song to be. Moving on to the next question here is going to be, what's your favorite part musically? We'll kind of talk about, I think, some of my favorite, like I said, I love the sample in the first verse. I think some of my favorite moments in this song are, like I said, when the sample comes in and you like hear it, and I'm doing the spoken word thing, and then it drops down, the drums come in, and I start rapping. That's a cool moment. I also really like when, we have that transition between the first verse and the second verse. The sample kind of reverbs out, and then you got, that drum fill come in, and then, the new sample comes in with the 808 and, the new drums. Also a really cool moment. And then also as well, just really love the moment when the guitar solo starts. And then, just kind of going into the choir and ending on that note, like, really like triumphant almost note. So I think some moments I really like in that song, and a big reason why this is one of my favorite songs in the album. Just a lot of really cool moments in this song that give you a really good feeling, in my opinion. You know, the sample feels really good. You know, the choir feels really good. You know, the guitar solo, the drums hit, all that stuff. So I think there's just a lot of moments in this song that feel really good, and that's why I like it so much. Moving on to the next question here is going to be, how long did it take you to make? Yeah, so I would say just, you know, about a month for this one, you know, for how long it took me to make. So not too long, but, you know, the writing, recording, making the beat, all that stuff. Moving on to the next question here is, was there any musical inspiration for this song? Like I say, I think the first sample for the first verse, I'm really happy I found this sample, was able to use it. I think it's a super fire sample that I'm surprised I hadn't really heard before, or like no one else had used, because I feel like it should be. You know, I always try to sample music that I really love. This is definitely a case of that, where I really love the song. It's also a really long song. It's an older song, but really good. Definitely, I feel like this is a sample that we could see some bigger artists using in the future. But it really, again, just really reminded me of what I was going for sonically, of, you know, that, you know, J. Cole, Drake, Kendrick, that style of hip hop that, you know, that has inspired me so much throughout my life. I think it really reminded me of that a lot. So, you know, being able to find a sample that good that I feel like, you know, I could hear J. Cole on this, you know, I could hear Mac on this, all that stuff, you know, Logic, all these people that, you know, I've enjoyed listening to, Chance the Rapper, all that, you know, that I've enjoyed listening to, finding a sample that I feel like they could rap over, and I could definitely hear them rapping over, but being able to say, like, I made a song with that, I feel like it's really cool. And then, you know, like I mentioned before, I think that last beat there, you know, kind of the slowed down, pitched down thing, you know, definitely reminds me a lot of DJ Screw a lot. You know, rest in peace to him. But I think, you know, especially on TikTok now, you talk a lot about, you know, oh, the sped up, sped down versions. He was definitely a pioneer in that, you know, that sped down version, you know, in Houston, doing his thing. Definitely something, you know, that was definitely ahead of its time there. So definitely got a little bit of inspiration there, trying to do something, you know, kind of pay honor to him, pay homage to him. I think definitely something that was kind of, and again, just different from the rest of the album, where, you know, I'm not doing that on a lot of different beats. So again, just something different to end the album on that note. Last question here is going to be, what was the hardest part of making this song? So the hardest part for making this song was actually, we'll talk about like kind of two things here. First part that was hard was the sample for the first verse. So, you know, I've talked a lot in this video about how much I love that first verse sample. That was not the sample that I was going to use initially. I didn't even have that sample. I had a totally different sample picked out. It was like this acapella, like barbershop quartet group that had, and it was a really cool sample, but I just had trouble, you know, putting drums on it, and overall just really making a beat with it where it wasn't just like, you know, just the sample. So, and like I say, I love having progression in my music, so like I wasn't getting it to where a point where I'm like, okay, this is progressing, it's really like just the sample, and sometimes that's fine, but for this song I really wanted it, you know, being the last song on the album, I didn't want it to end, I wanted to end with some energy. So that was probably the hardest part, was, you know, experimenting, trying to figure out, should I still stick with this sample, do I just need to work harder, do I just need to try different things, do I need to chop it, do I, you know, different effects, what do I do to make this beat, until eventually I found this sample, and, you know, I tried it, and I was like, you know what, this is a really cool sample, what if we tried it for this beat? And I actually, you know, I'll talk about it in Deconstructed, but all the drums that I made for this song and this beat was made with the first original sample. All I did was throw that new sample in there and kept the drums exactly the same. So pretty cool. Again, another reason why I love this song. But that was probably the hardest part, was trying to get that sample, figure out how I, you know, place that in there, you know, what direction do I need to go. And then the other hard part was, again, just arrangement, I think, with the second verse, just because, again, it's a little bit different tempo for me to rap on, and just a little bit different tempo-wise, period, for rap these days, I feel like. So trying to figure out, you know, how to rap on it as a beat, and then also, you know, how to, you know, fill in the gaps that, you know, I knew I wanted to have that hook section, so how do I, you know, make that fit in with my verses as far as length. So I think that took a little bit longer, just figuring out, you know, the arrangement and how I wanted to balance it out, and make sure it made sense. But yeah, I think those were probably the two hardest parts of making this song. that is going to be it for this episode of Dissect, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've watched this video, that means you have watched the last video of the Dissect series for my new album, Strangers in the Dark. Like I say, I got a lot more planned for this year. Got another album I'm working on the way this year. So definitely stay tuned. We got a lot more coming on the way. If you haven't listened to this song or my album, Strangers in the Dark, we have a link in the description. Definitely encourage you guys to listen to it. Like I've mentioned, super proud of this album. I think you guys will enjoy it. I appreciate anyone who listens to my music. It means a lot to me. That's going to be it for this video today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.